There have been a number of times throughout Olympic history when individual athletes have made political gestures to draw attention to particular situations. Probably the two most famous are Cathy Freeman in 2000 at Sydney. Cathy Freeman's an Australian runner of Aboriginal origin, and when she won, she deliberately carried both an Australian and an Aboriginal flag with her. The other most famous one probably comes from 1968, when a number of black American athletes, particularly Smith and Carlos, used the medal podium to make a Black Power salute.
The exhibition Politics and Olympics is, as the title suggests, is about the intervention, if you want, and the relationship with politics throughout the Olympic Games history.
The modern Olympic Games were started in 1896, with the first ones being held in Athens. The original vision was obviously very narrow, it was very elitist. The main founder was an aristocrat. Most of the original Olympic Committee were aristocrats, members of the House of Lords, high-ranking academics from different countries. So it was a very elitist vision.
It's a very timely exhibition as Britain prepares to host the Olympics. We're all at Olympic fever pitch, and there's a huge amount of official discourse going around. But we also actually want to look at some of the tensions there, some of the hypocrisies at play, and look at what other people are saying beyond those in positions of power.
There's always been a politics in the Olympics. I think what's happened is over time the politics have become an awful lot more obvious as wider global issues have been played out in the Olympics. I think the first really to do that was kind of Cold War politics. So which China do you recognise, which Germany, which Korea? It then really came to the fore in the 1960s over South Africa, when the IOC threw South Africa out of the Games because of apartheid.
What are the values that we are subscribing to? What are the values that perhaps we're ignoring? You know, some of those issues around the sponsorship, some of those companies, one wouldn't be quite sure that they represent the values that we hope Britain is holding close to its heart.
Corporate sponsorship is a massive part of the Olympics now, and some may say too big, but there is a historical story there really. If you look at 1908 in London, the Olympic Games were part of the Franco-British exhibition, essentially a trade fair, and people going into the stadium walked through the halls showing off all the exploits of British and French industry before they got to the Games. What's changed, what's different is the level of sponsorship now. We completely understand that Coca-Cola or McDonald's or BP pay huge amounts of money to be the only soft drink, fast food restaurant, petrol supplier linked to the Games. We fully understand that. But when we're told that we can't even take our own packed lunch into the Olympic Park because that's going to conflict with the presence of the biggest McDonald's in the world, that's when I think people get very uncomfortable about the relationship. There have been a number of times in the Olympics history that they've been hit by terrorism from external political groups, or in one case an individual. I think the Olympics have become attractive to that kind of horrific, tragic attention because they are so big. One of the Palestinians involved in the Munich hijack said that by attacking the Olympics, they would get more attention than if they bombed the Vatican and the White House. And that's a really, really chilling image. I think it's important to remember that while Munich and Atlanta stand out as examples of external organisations or individuals attacking the Olympics, there's also been a very famous example of the state carrying out acts of terror on its own people around an Olympics. The most famous one is in Mexico City in 1968. There was a military dictatorship. There had been a lot of protests from student groups over the course of the summer, arbitrary arrests, arbitrary imprisonment without trial. And in October, 10 days before the Olympics started, 10,000 students protested against the government. And the Mexican government responded. They had snipers from their own Olympic brigade planted in the crowd who started shooting, which gave the cue for the army to shoot back. And the fatalities, nobody's come down with hard and fast on this. They vary from 30 to 300. There were over 1,000 arrests the next day. And guess what? 10 days later, the Olympic Games went ahead as if nothing had happened.
I think this exhibition acts as a provocation, as a springboard to the kind of events that are happening in this building.
The exhibition is not necessarily pro or against Olympics. I think it's an important research project as such, which uncovers and unfolds stories that could allow people to position themselves either pro-Olympics or anti-Olympics, or just have a critical understanding of the Olympic Games.
It's all about opening the debate up, about pointing out the different kinds of politics of the games. If it's anti-anything, it's an anti-naivety exhibition.
It just wants to show a parallel reality that is never, in a way, communicated through the mainstream media.